Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are back on the Updates New Power Dev server, and it's time to have a look at the new premium vehicle that is coming in for the Soviets. This is the T-72AV TURMS, and it's coming in as a rank 6 battle rating 9.7 vehicle. This is the new top BR premium for the Soviets. You can find it right here when it comes to the terms, and it's going to be able to research the whole of the tech trees completely, with 678% for 20% on the RP and SL, which is just higher than the T-55AM. In terms of RP, so it'll be slightly better at researching than it, and at 9.7 you have a hell of a lineup around it as well, with the T-72B and also the T-64B that you can run. A 3 MBT lineup is really awesome to run at that lineup. I had a lot of fun with it when the T-72B, the 1989 came out. Unfortunately, it's been up-tiered, so c'est la vie on that one. But yeah, it is something to think about. The T-72AV has the 125mm 2A46M gun on it, which you can find here. Reload rate of 7.1 seconds. It has an automatic loader, so that ain't gonna change. And also it has a first stage ammo storage of 22. I was running 15 rounds when it came to running the 9.7s for the Soviets, and that was completely fine for me. And then you have the driver in the front, you got the gunner and the commander in the turret with its 3-man crew, and generally when it comes to its optics, it should technically have commander's thermals and gunner thermals, Gen 2 I believe, but right now, at least on the dev server, it only has Gen 2 gunner and no commander thermals, so I don't know whether that's a sign of something to come, or if that's just the fact that it isn't modeled yet. The engine is the CHTZ, has a power of 780 horsepower, which is incredibly similar to the T-72A that we have here, which doesn't really surprise me too much. It's probably exactly the same engine, and has access to the 12.7mm NSVT, which is a really nice gun, and also the 7.62, which is right here. I've just realized that these are mixed up. They should probably change that at some point as well. Wonderful stuff. I love the dev server. When it comes to armor, the armor profile is very similar to the T-72A. The armor profile, when it has the upgrade on it, which this thing does, you can see the extra plate on the top there, which is on top of this armor, is actually quite strong, especially when angled, and then the turret itself is pretty good, but if you get up-tiered a lot into 10.7, it's going to be eaten through, which is a bit of a problem. The armor I wouldn't rely on really, apart from if you're fighting heat, but it's an angle, it can definitely bounce quite a lot of shots. Still has the same weak spots as all of the Soviet vehicles, so driver port, turret ring, and also lower glacis that you can go through. It also has that sneaky road wheel shot that you can do, where you shoot here and it goes straight into the wonderful ammo rack, so you've got to be careful of that as well while using this vehicle. Overall, the survivability is kind of nice, but it ain't the best when it comes to around its BR. The gun is also kind of interesting. It gets 3 separate APF SDS rounds. It gets 3BM9, 3BM15, and 3BM22. And the 3BM22, 425, 360, 193 respectively, is a pretty nice round. It isn't as good as other 9.7 rounds that we have though on the T-64B and the standard T-72B as well. This one with the 2A46M1 gun can fire the 3BM42, which has 479, 415, 248, which means that you can deal with 10.7 vehicles quite easily. Whereas with this, the 3BM22 definitely isn't as good dealing with those 10.7 vehicles. It doesn't have as much smalling, and and means that you have to aim for way more weak spots, so that is something to take into account. 6 degrees worth of gun depression, pretty much no gun elevation as well, so you're relying on that 12.7 to keep you alive. And with the 41.5 tons of mass of this thing, the acceleration isn't too bad on it, but it still is not as good as some other MBTs out there. One of the things that you will be surprised at when it comes to these Soviet MBTs, if this will be your first foray into it, the Soviet MBTs are a lot smaller than a lot of other MBTs. Meaning that their general signature is a lot smaller, so they're harder to spot. So that can actually help you out quite a lot. The turret rotation is quite low at 17 degrees compared to some others. If you want a comparison, the 2A6 is at 34 degrees per second, so literally double your turret rotation of the T-72AV. So yeah, that's basically the general ideas of it. Oh, it does have access to contact 1, which is very useful against heat or HE, but not so useful against APFSDS, which is the main round that everybody is firing at this BR. So yeah, that's a bit of a problem. It does have quite a nice skin on it though. There you can see the BMP going in the background, just having an interesting wander. One other thing about the new hangars, if you actually leave the hangar for long enough, you see these targets in the background, which are over here. The tanks will start firing at them, which is really cool. So I'm really happy to see that, really nice to see in the game. Customization options, so this is the standard camo, and you can see it has camos from all over the place when it comes to this vehicle. So if you really want to jazz it up, you are able to. The Finnish camo for me is always the best for the Soviet tanks, but you do still have some interesting ones, like this late green one, which you saw on the T-90A when it was shown on the dev stream. This is basically the camo it was using, very dark, but the late desert is a personal favorite. The forest camo is also one which works incredibly well and looks very nice. So yeah, watch out for this camo. I'm feeling a lot of people are going to use it, and it's going to be hard to spot these tanks roaming around, and I'm pretty sure all of the top tier vehicles for the Soviets will have it. So if you see a T-80U roaming around and it looks dead, make sure it's got fire coming out of it, because otherwise what's going to happen is this has a Korean summer camouflage. It's going to look like this, and you're going to be like, oh, that looks a bit odd. Well, if you put the condition up and then you put like the scale down, you can see it looks incredibly dark, so it might actually feel like it's dead. And then if you do that, it's slightly different. But anyway, back to the T-72AV. So I was worried about this tank because the fact is, when it comes to these premiums, there have been a lot of odd choices when it comes to the BRs of them. Right now, at least on the dev server, I have to say I agree with the BR of this machine. It has access to some things over its, over the other vehicles which sit themselves at the BR, mainly the Gen 2 thermals that you can see here, and the really nice optics. So you can take advantage of them. There is showing that the commander's thermals aren't working right now. So it has thermals over its tech tree counterparts, but it doesn't get access to the 3BM42. So the way that I see it when it comes to this vehicle is it has some positives or strengths over stuff like the T-72B, but it also has weaknesses. And this is the perfect style for me when it comes to premiums. I was worried that this thing would come in at 9.3 and just be a straight upgrade over the T-72A, but now the way that it's set up, I'll just show you the towing once again. There you go. You can see how you can tow a vehicle out the way, which is pretty nice. The fact that it has its advantages, it has the same survivability, it should have the same maneuverability around the place, but the fact that it also has its disadvantages as well is really, really good. I had a ton of fun playing the Soviet vehicles when it came to the T-72s mainly. The T-64s were a little bit sluggish, but when it came to T-72s they were great. The T-80s are also incredibly fun, and with the lineup at 9.7 and with even higher lineups, with stuff such as you know, the Tunguska, the Ka-50, the Ka-52, the new MiG-21 BIS coming in, the Su-7 BKL, all of the Soviet MBTs that you have, and also even backup with stuff such as the BMP-2M. There's a lot to really like about the Soviet top tier right now. So even though you have stuff such as the wonderful Leopard 2A6 coming in, even though you have another 122B coming in, I think when we compare this to something like an XM1, or compare this to other premiums for the nations, it is definitely up there as one of the strongest that we have in the game right now. And I'm very happy to see it, to be honest with you. The T-72AV was obviously weaker than a lot of the other vehicles when it came to its general usage in the game, being at 8.3, and with the British getting the Roycat, with the XM1 existing, with the A1A1 L44 existing, and also the OF40, I thought it was time for Soviets to get some kind of higher tier premium, especially since they lack the wonderful thermals for the majority of their vehicles. This is the first 9.7 MBT that the Soviets will get that has thermals, which is really nice, because at least in night battles for me, it was an absolute pain playing them in that 9.7 lineup, which I enjoy so much. So I'm happy to see it. Hopefully it gets access to its commander thermals at some point, and I would definitely look out for it if you're looking to research through the higher echelons of the Soviet tech tree. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank Trigger Hippie, Universe, Conte Baraka, Elove Goat, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Hans, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.